Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Wassup Conversations, a podcast with icons of pop culture. I'm your host, Hamid Reza Nikufar, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming a mega talented cinematographer from Uruguay, the legendary Pedro Luque. Pedro is known for his work on several acclaimed horror films such as Don't Breathe, Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, but his most recent project has taken him to the new heights. The Netflix hit film Society of the Snow. This powerful survival thriller, directed by J.A. Bayona, tells the story of the Uruguayan Andes flight disaster of 1972. In our conversations today, Pedro and I delve into his background and journey to becoming a renowned cinematographer, his experiences working on horror films and the unique challenges they present, making of Society of the Snow with in-depth discussions about specific shots and the incredible behind-the-scenes stories. Before we jump in, a quick reminder, please be sure to subscribe to Wassup Conversations on YouTube or your favorite podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. Wassup Conversations bring you insightful conversations with some of the most fascinating figures in pop culture. Thank you very much. Let's go. Hello and welcome to Wassup Conversations, Mr. Luque. It's a pleasure having such an incredible artist on the podcast to talk about your amazing career and the breathtaking Society of the Snow. Weirdly, this is the first day of snow in my town, so thanks for the lucky charm.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm so curious about
Is it
your.
beautiful?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I haven't had it in a long time, so it's really appreciated. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm so curious about your artistic journey. Was becoming a cinematographer something you always dreamed of, or did it unfold along the way? Could you tell us about a bit about the path that led you to becoming the Pedro Luque we know today, and maybe share a story about the project that felt like your big break?
Okay. So I'm from Uruguay, South America, right? And I always my father's an architect, my mom's a psychologist, and I always been around books and things to draw, right? So I became a fairly good drawer, and I was like studying painting, right, from my 13, 14 until late, and but I wanted to be an architect. But I always loved movies. I didn't know who made movies, I didn't know that a director of photography existed. I knew some directors, right, like the big ones, like Spielberg. And at one point, we were doing like short films with a friend. I have a friend that his father had cameras, which were like these like little, compact VHS cameras or whatever, like, because the guy was kind of a photographer. And we will do, like short films, animation, like edited on camera, stuff like that. And at one point, this guy tells me, like, hey, there's a thing that's called film school. And you can actually go and learn film, how to do movies. And we were like, all right, okay. And I went there. And my mom was like, there's not a big industry of movies in Uruguay. Uruguay, it's a South American country of 3.5 million people. It's a small place. But I went anyway. And once I was there, I was already making photos of my friends' rock bands. So I was a photographer. So I had a little bit more knowledge, right? But something. Also, another thing that happened was that when I was in my first year of film school, my painting teacher got an offering to do the production design on a movie. It was a very small movie, right? And she already done it in another movie. So he went and did it, and he brought me in. So I worked as a props assistant in a movie. And in that movie, I saw this guy that was with the camera, this team. And that was something that kind of caught my eye. It was like, oh, look at those guys. I mean, and I knew it was like a little movie and the camera wasn't that good. But the love they had on what they were doing was so great that and also these guys started like saying, "Hey, Pedro, get over here," like now, like teaching me the ways of the set, right? Which are like difficult to learn if you're not there. You no idea who does what, right? So this guy started teaching me, and I think I got hooked there. And then when I was on film school, it was like I was semi good at that because I had all this background, and there was no other DPs. It was me and a friend that we will be shooting all the short films on film school. So it was like when I came out of film school, I had like 25 shorts
Wow.
shot. So it was like, I already had a tiny little reel, but I was doing film school. I was working at the same time on a on a government-owned, city government-owned TV station. I was working on commercials, doing location managing. I was an assistant director in this other company. I was doing everything, right? And at one point, the same guy that was the DP of the first movie I worked on, he tells me like, "Hey, listen, if you actually want to be a director of photography, at one point when they call you, you need to tell them I'm a director of photography now. Do you want to see my reel?" And that's what I did. And also I had, like separated from my girlfriend. I was coming back to my mom's house. I had nothing to lose, right? So it was like when I left the phone, it was like, "Yeah, listen, I do this now." I was like, "Okay, send me your reel." And I eventually, with that, ended up working. There was this young company that had Fede Alvarez as one of the directors, and Fede was starting as I was. I knew Fede because he will be editing at a company I was working on, and he wanted to work with young people, right? And that's when we like matched and started to work. And then the first break was we did a short film with Fede that was this science fiction short film that had a lot of CG stuff that Fede did with a friend. And it was like a viral YouTube video. This was 2008, I think, or 2009. And he got picked up by Sam Raimi to shoot Evil Dead. Yeah, it was crazy. One day the short film was on the internet on YouTube, and like next Monday they were calling from the studios, hey, we want to meet you. Come for a meeting. And I said, okay. He went over there, and I had shot at that moment a horror film which was called The Silent House, which was a single shot horror film, right? It was actually 7 takes put together, but we had like 15-minute takes, or 20-minute takes. And it was a single shot horror film. And that went to Cannes and got remade in the US. So we were really lucky. And we got those 2 things. I got a movie in New Orleans with a British director. He was like obsessed that I should shoot his movie. And I went over there and I said to my wife, I already had a wife and one of my daughters. I have 2 now. And I told her like, "Hey, you want to try? Let's just go and see what happens over there." And we came over here, and it was good, but it was rough. I live in Los Angeles now. It was rough for a couple of years, and then the real breakthrough was Don't Breathe. Now Fede was finally able to call me because for Evil Dead it was hard. I was a no one from Uruguay that had never shot a real Hollywood movie. So, but when Fede had to do Don't Breathe, it was way less money. The budget was small. It was less risky, and I already had shot a movie in the US, so it was like, okay, he can do it. And my fee was really low, and that was the first real breakthrough.
Wow. So it kind of started with horror, and your filmography includes many horror films. Was this a genre you actively sought out, or did your talents simply attract these projects?
It's funny because I was never a big horror fan. Even though that I enjoy those movies, but those are the ones, I get scared. I get truly scared. And sometimes I'm like, man, I remember watching the Blair Witch Project by myself on a theater. And I was like having a bad time, like, but I went through, and the funny story is that I remember I was with the director of the Silent House, and we were shooting a commercial, like a stupid commercial for Uruguay, very very little. We will do whatever we could, and we were like watching this piece of chocolate rotating, and we're like, man, I mean, we went to film school for this. Yes, like we love movies, right? And at that time, a producer friend of us, he went to a festival in the UK, and he came back and was like, bro, I spoke with this producer over there, and he says like, Uruguayan stories, man, nobody cares about that. But if you do a horror film, maybe I could sell it. I will look at each other and was like, make a horror film. So the Silent House was shot with $8,000 in 4 days. Yeah, we shot it with a 5D. We shot it with whatever we could. It's like we didn't know, and it ended up being a big hit. It was crazy. Also, we did it it was a cooperative, so we didn't have money up front. It was like, okay, if we sell this movie, you're gonna get some money. And we thought, that we were going to put that movie on theaters in Montevideo, probably, I don't know, a couple thousand people will go see it. And it ended up being sold to 41 territories. We had a remake done with Elizabeth Olsen. She wasn't as known as she is now, but it was crazy. But that speaks about, like, sometimes you gotta go and do it, right? Just waiting for the opportunity to come to you, it's not gonna happen,
Yeah,
It's not gonna happen because
and it's obvious in your career.
Yeah, we were lucky, right? Because we had $8,000. I mean, this producer had $8,000, and we were budgeted to shoot this movie in 3 days. By the end of the third day, we're trying to shoot the ending, and the ending is not working, right? And we're like, oh, we fucked it up big time. We don't have an ending. So we went to the producer and said, like, bro, listen, we need to come back here again tomorrow. We need another day because this is not working. And he's like, oh no, It ended up being a great thing. So
yeah. So I remember you mentioned in an interview last year that you were feeling both excited and daunted about shooting this secret Netflix film, which turned out to be Society of the Snow. Now, with the film being hailed as one of the year's best, how does it feel to have not only survived the mountain, but created such a masterpiece?
I mean, I feel really, really happy and grateful because
it's something personal to you as well.
Yeah, I'm from Uruguay, and this story I know very well, and my wife's family know some of the families of the survivors and the deceased. But for me, it was a really, really tough sacrifice go and do this movie because I had to leave for almost 22 months, and I have a wife and 2 kids, and I lost chunks of the lives of my children that it's not coming back, right? And it was a strain on the couple, and it was a tough one. But at the same time, I will do it again because I think it's a story worth telling. And I think luckily it's a good movie. It's really difficult to make good movies. We had a great director with us, and that's why I knew it was going to be crazy. But at the same time, I was confident on my director and the producers that we were going to do a good piece of cinematic art, right? And that something that will, you know, um, make people feel things, and because it's weird how a movie can move you in that sense. You end up crying, you end up feeling for these kids, and it's very powerful how a movie can give you, the gift of emotion.
Exactly, and Society of the Snow is a powerful reminder of hope and resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship. As an artist, how do you
Yeah.
navigate creative challenges and maintain your own sense of hope when you're faced with difficult projects?
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm always being a little bit punk in the sense that I will jump, and then
Yeah.
see. And that has led me to good places and some crashes also. But those crashes always, taught me stuff. And I think in a project like this, luckily, I had experience enough to tackle a thing like so complex in the logistical sense and so difficult in the emotional. But it is step by step, and you gotta trust the process, and trust your team. We had an amazing team. Imagine for the assistant directors what it was, this thing, or the producers having to bring all these people to the top of the mountain, or the snow and the accidents and the stuff that's going on. And the director that has to keep, like this macro vision. So it was step by step, and I always allow myself to, make mistakes, and also to be expressive in what with what I do, because I really believe in the power of photography to transmit ideas, right? That may go beyond or with the words or the story you're telling. So it was step by step with a lot of hard work and a lot of, you know, uh, waking up early and just going and doing it, and show face. Um, and a lot of charging your intuition with all the things that you think you want to say with this movie beforehand, right? Like on prep, say like, okay, what are the ideas, the themes, how can they be translated into what we have? Also, not losing the sense of uh, that this has to be entertaining. So we need, like variation in the cinematography. We need a journey that takes you, that grabs you here and takes you there, that shows you other stuff that may not be in the words, right? Like, I always say, like the life these guys had before the mountain, it was a little bit too perfect to be true. So I I chose with Bayona, we chose to show it in a way that's almost fake. It's like very lit, too lit for a second, and too colorful and happy. And even though that there's like there are protests outside of the bar, like, and students going to striking, and these kids are like, bro, we're gonna go meet these girls in Chile, have a beer, right? So it's like, and they find out what they are in the mountain. That's when the thing gets serious. All of the life before, it's almost like like a parody of themselves. So, and that's one of the things that the cinematography may tell you without really telling you. And I'm sure, I trust on the audience to catch those things, like, because I'm sure that subconsciously this stuff gets into you, and it's part of the story. That's a beautiful thing about cinema. It's like a story told with sound and images, and it becomes like an idea almost.
Yeah, exactly. And I've only watched the movie once, but it's like I know this story, I know the images so well, and in fact, I want to delve deeper into some of my favorite moments and shots from Society of the Snow and understand the creative choices behind them. So let's talk about them, and let's talk about the use of colors and lenses in the film. I'm gonna give you a take on my take. So let's see if it's true or not. The first part of the film is full of warm colors and everyone is closer, but after the crash, the colors are very cold and we see the use of wider lenses to show smallness of these characters compared to vastness of the nature they're trapped in. And for the third
Yeah.
part of the film, however, I'm curious about this, if this theory is true or not. It's kind of feel like we have the blend of the first and second part of the film. And we'll see some tonality of the colors and lenses used in the first part, but also still carries on the look and the feel of the second part as well. It's a kind of combination of the both.
But you mean like when they get rescued, after they get
Yes,
rescued?
exactly. So
It
right
does,
through the end. But they
yeah,
come back
exactly.
to their normal life, but it kind of visually,
But it's
like
not,
there is
yeah.
this stain of that second
Yeah.
part still there.
Well, the thing is like there are like two key elements for me that were like part of this movie. We weren't too dogmatic about, oh, this is gonna be like this, it's gonna be like that. It was more like a sensitive approach to it, right?
Yeah.
And what are the emotions that these things are giving us, right?
Yeah.
And for me, at the beginning, it was a little bit, as I tell you, more fake, and then it was more grounded and,
Yeah.
and almost like a horror film for a second, right? And then the ending, it has several parts. It does do that, as you say. It carries, real life comes back, and the warmth comes back. When they're eating, before the press arrives. That's the most peaceful moment for them. The most real peace they have when Nando and Roberto are eating in the cabin after being rescued. But then comes this wave of craziness, which is the press and the doctors, and all the entrance to the hospital is kind of crazy again, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like there's a lot of light, and like there's people saying hi and bringing babies to get kissed and stuff like that. And then in the hospital there is a little bit of that, because when Numa's the narrator is talking and showing his legs and them taking a bath, that kind of comes back to the wide angles and really close. But this time we have the warmth of this little town in Chile and the warmth of life that has come back again. And I see what you're saying about that mixture at that point. Then by the ending, the real ending, it becomes a little bit fantastic again, right? Because by the end you have this Last Supper, right? That was a little bit on the nose, right? But at the same time, I think it honors what they felt. It's not what I feel I mean, I'm an atheist, so, for me, but at the same time, I know, and we did this through the whole movie, there's some certain images that we all as humans have, like ingrained in our brains. And when you tap into that, there's something that gets activated in your brain and said, oh, this makes sense. The thing about eating the flesh of, your friends, how Jesus gave his flesh to right? That kind of stuff. That happens in the movie. Happens if you know the story a little bit, you've seen the photos, the real photos.
Yes.
So that's why we reproduce those photos so perfectly, because when you see that photo, it gets stored in your memory somehow, and you may forget about it, right? But at one point, when you see it again, you say like, oh, wait, I saw that before. And that reinforces the idea of, okay, this is real. This really happened. But to do that, the photo has to be like really similar to the real photo. If not, it won't activate the same neural path, the same memory that was stored in your brain. It has to be perfect. And you got to remember, this movie starts with that phrase that, that says we gotta go to the past, knowing that the past it's what changes the most, right?
Yeah,
And this is an exercise on reviewing the past and thinking, okay, but wait, what happened, right? But with the crystal of time, everything gets distorted and it's different. And
yeah, as you've mentioned, the first part of the movie is kind of this romantic look and colors and sort of
yeah,
dreamy of this. And
yeah,
suddenly we change back to documentary. And I've heard this from a lot of people that this film looks like a documentary. And given the fact that we are supposed to understand and be with these characters in these horrible situations, this was like the best decision ever. And it's kind of like the first part of the film is like a dream, like that
totally.
happened exactly inside of their head, like
Yeah.
just like the colors around me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, totally. It's yeah, it walks in the line in between, what's going on and a flashback.
yeah,
It's almost
exactly.
like a flashback, almost. I
And the
mean,
film actually begins in the mountains and then switches
yeah,
back there, so it is a
yeah,
flashback or
it
even
is
a
totally.
dream.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. It could be considered a big, big flashback.
yeah,
It's not that big also because when we knew, I mean, we shot a lot of stuff that's not on the movie, right? We shot the young years of Numa. We shot Numa playing soccer, playing football.
wow,
We shot the lives of other characters. We shot them playing, and but we knew, like in a way, this story asks you to go to the bone and go to the crash.
yeah,
But at the same time, we need to establish these characters, right? It's
yeah,
difficult to follow them though because there are a lot. There's it's a lot of kids, but yeah, the crash was like something that got us a little bit scared when we were like planning it because I remember I saw Alive when I was like 12 or 13, and I got so
wow,
like shocked by that plane crash. And after the years passed, people will still say, "Wow, no, the plane crash on Alive, that's really good," right? And we were like, even though that we didn't put too much attention to it because it was very technical, it wasn't that emotional, right?
yeah.
And we ended up shooting the crash at the end of the shot. Um, I was a little bit like, oh man, we need to do a good job with this one because it's like we are comparing ourselves to a really good plane crash,
Yeah,
and I think it's
yeah.
good.
I believe this is what I believe. I believe this is the best plane crash in the history of cinema. This
Thank you.
scared the shit out of me, and I was very curious about it. And I heard that J. Bayona saying that when he was talking to the survivors, they said that there was this physical impact. They felt like something was very physical, and that was in the movie. I mean, those insert shots of the knees and every part of the
Yeah,
body, just that was the because when we think about a plane crash, we just say, okay, we're sitting and boom, we're just hitting the ground. But this is like
yeah.
way complicated than that.
Now, also, you got to remember that this was a bizarre plane crash because if
Yeah,
this plane was like 3 meters below what was doing, or 10 meters below of what the height when it crashed the mountain, they would have all died
yeah,
immediately because this mountain is like this, and the plane happens to clip with
yeah,
the tail the mountain. So if they were lower, they would like just disappear in an explosion. And if they were a little bit higher, there was another mountain right next to them, right?
wow,
That they would have
yeah,
crashed there.
wow,
And then two weird things happen. It's like one is that because of the plane is like on full power, the pressurization of the cabin is not as high. So when it breaks, it doesn't explode. It just breaks.
Yeah.
The difference in pressure between the outside and the inside is not that big. And the other thing is like, which is crazy, is like after the plane loses its tail and the wings, it flies like a bullet and lands on a slope and slides down like
Yeah.
at 300 kilometers per hour. Slides down and there are rocks around, so they could have clipped one of those
Exactly.
rocks and just
Wow.
killed everybody immediately, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
The thing slid and ended up crashing against this glacier, which kind of softened. And that year in that part of Argentina and Chile is right on the border. When they hit the mountain, that's the border between Argentina and Chile. There has been like a big snow, so there was like way more snow than was common.
Yeah.
So I think that in a way softened the blow.
Yeah. One of my favorite shots of the film is where Numa is watching his friends eating the dead through the plane's window. The red horizon
Yeah.
and the way we switch to his POV, witnessing that event is so impactful and horrifying.
Yeah.
How did you come
Yeah.
up with that shot? And was it always the way it was in the film now?
Well, for me and for Bayona, it was very important to connect the interior and the exterior in real shots,
Yeah.
right? Because we had a fuselage on a mountain in Spain, and then we had another one that was an interior fuselage on a stage that was also in the mountain, but it was a stage. And then we had a backlot, which was a reproduction of the mountain that had like 100 by 100 meters. It was a reproduction made of scaffolding and foam, which had another fuselage in there that would go up and down to mimic the level of snow. And also we had the Andes Mountains, the real mountains. So we needed to mix all these things without losing the sense of reality. So at one point you have to connect the places together with a single shot. So people go like, yeah, we're there, right?
Yeah.
Not like always cutting from the inside to the outside.
Yeah.
And this one felt that it was one of those moments that needed to be connected for real. So we ended up shooting this in the mountain, the real mountain, not in the Andes Mountains, but in Spain. And the light was like that. The light was going away, was fading away. The only thing that CG added to the shot is the deep background, where they added this volcano, which is called the Sosneado, just a volcano that's there. It's very characteristic. And I wanted to shoot that with some drama, some kind of drama in the light. It couldn't be like in sunlight, because it will feel, for me, right, this is very personal and subjective. I felt, like all that happened that led us to this, that led us to the decision to actually go and cut a piece of a corpse and eat, such desperation, such hunger, such discussion, such moral issues needed to be reflected in the image. Because as an audience, you may not be, too aware of how's it looking, right? But it impacts you. So we decided it's actually a really simple shot. It's a slider, with a camera with a short zoom, and the camera starts on Numa and slides as he looks through the window, and the camera, as it's sliding, kind of zooms in slowly to them. We put them there with the corpses, and it's like, okay, this is the action, go for it, And the light was the last shot of that day. And then most of that discussion happened on a stage in that same place. But we ended up building a stage on a parking lot that was at 2,600 meters high. That was on the same ski town we were staying. The mountain set took us 1 hour to go there through the gondola, that thing that takes you up the mountain, and then a tractor, these special tractors we adapted, the ones that have the big white tracks.
Yeah.
And it took us 1 hour to get to the mountain set. So the interior set, we built a stage that was 50 by 25 meters by 23 high. It was pretty big. This German company or Belgian company, they come and build it for you wherever you want it. And inside that place, we had the fuselage, a little bit more modular that we could take parts apart. And then we had an LED screen, a big LED screen, like it was 30 by 7 meters. And that was like a J. And then on top, it was like all these sky panels, which are like these LED lights that you can change the color. So most of the interiors were shot there, right? Some of the exteriors too, when we didn't have, because the movie was shot chronologically, because we started after the crash, and these kids stopped eating for 6 months. So some of these guys lost, 30 kilos. Numa was weighing 49 kilos when he finished the movie.
Wow.
When he dies. So he was like super skinny. And so we couldn't be like, okay, we're going to shoot all the interiors and then we're going to shoot all the exteriors or the other way around. We were jumping. And sometimes the mountain was like, oh, God, you're not shooting here, bro. It's like 160 kilometer per hour winds,
Yeah.
And we would have to, and we had to, all right, we're going to shoot on the stage, but what? We only have exterior shots. Or we will go to the backlot, which was, we brought truckloads of snow. Backlot, it was in the middle of an olive tree grove, and we will shoot there. But it was kind of crazy. And then we had a third unit. It was a mountain unit, and those guys were like, okay, it's like 5 people in the crew, 3 actors, backpacks, skis, mountain, find a place, shoot a little shot, get that storm, Those guys did a great job for the movie too.
Yeah. And again, this was such a simple shot, but it was so impactful because we're kind of like kind of getting in and slowly lurking in what's going on in that frame, and then we switch back to the to Numa, and we see him very small within a frame of the window, and the reflection of those red, because we haven't seen red in a while, and suddenly there is red in the sky, and it's reflected on his face, and I was like, Pedro is on God mode shooting this.
Yeah, because also, and I mean, it depends on the movie, because some other person could say, that it's tacky or it's not such good taste. But I felt there was something horrible about that had to be transmitted. I mean, I know because I spoke with the survivors how hard it was for them having to eat because the bodies of their friends. People forget and they say like, oh, these cannibals, they were eating meat and they were like feasting on the bodies. No, it was like horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. They were like so ashamed, so disgusted, but they had no option. So I felt like also because we are in the character of Numa, which is so a religious guy and has this high morals, for him, I felt it had to be like hell, like, oh, this is what hell looks like.
Exactly.
Right? Big mountain with the stormy weather, with the red fire behind. And so it is like, it's a little bit cliche, it is a little bit, on the nose again, but at the same time, when we are making movies, we work with big stereotypes and with big, those images we all have in our minds. I mean, I'm an atheist, I told you already, but obviously I was raised in a country that's Christian. So I know all the Christian symbols, and I know how powerful they are for some people, and you use those symbols for a lot of things.
Exactly.
I mean, nobody's going to say that hell was a beautiful beach in the Caribbean, right? No. Even through all religions, I'm sure they all say hell is a horrible place.
Yeah. Yeah. And every frame of this film, every decision that you have made conveys this emotion, kind of like make us relate to these character, and this is true justice to their legacy and to this story. So there's nothing cheesy or wrong about it. And yeah,
Thank
so
you.
yeah. Yeah, all right. This is it, Mr. Luque. I thank you for your time and great company, but mostly I want to thank you for your care, craftsmanship, and humanity in
Thank you
portraying
so
this
much.
story of loss, tragedy, but most importantly, hope. This film is something
Yeah.
that everyone should see, and your way of telling it is the most respectful and beautiful way of doing it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, Reza, I'd say see you around. Okay.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you.